we have been invited to visit the West Bank to look at healthcare facilities. And then when we got to Israel, we were barred from entering. There's clearly deliberate targeting of healthcare workers. That's nurses and doctors. For example, I've heard from medics who've worked in Gaza that then they really don't go out of hospitals in their scrubs because they then get arrested. We have to be on the right side of history here, and we have to do the right thing. Now, I don't know the actual details of if we are, how much arms we're supplying, but I think we should stop it. And I think that's simple.
Dr. Simon Opher, welcome to PoliticsJOE. How would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Dr. Simon Opher. I'm actually a Labour MP for Stroud. I'm also a working GP working in the NHS here in Stroud area.
Can you tell us about the statement that you released yesterday alongside Dr. Peter Prinsley?
So we have been invited to visit the West Bank in Israel and to look at healthcare facilities and see what the work of the medical aid for Palestinians were doing there. So we got invited. We flew to Jordan, and we're going to enter Israel overland. So we went across the River Jordan, and then when we got to Israel, we were barred from entering, and after about 3 hours of shenanigans, including the consulate in Israel, the British consulate, and also I phoned up the foreign minister in England to see if we could get through, but they barred us for coming through. So we then got issued with a document which said that we were the above mentioned individual will be removed from Israel, and the reasons for the removal were public security, public safety, and public order. And then we were led to a bus, put on a bus, and then we had our passports returned, and we were sent back across the Jordan, back to the country of Jordan. So it was really disappointing because we had 3 days of visits all planned. We're going to meet Israeli and Palestinian people. We're not trying to undermine the Israeli state in any way. So we were very disappointed about it. It's very frustrating as well.
The purpose of the visit, as you mentioned, or one part of it at least, was to witness the medical and humanitarian work of a range of organisations, including medical aid for Palestine and the occupied West Bank. What are the consequences of Israel not allowing British observers, British politicians like yourself, to witness that sort of work?
I think it harms our relationship with Israel. Now, Israel actually is still meant to be an ally of the UK. So, not allowing parliamentarians in is not going to do great for British-Israeli relationships. And also, you have to wonder why they've stopped us going. And the only conclusion is that they're not very proud of what's happening to healthcare in the West Bank. So, I do know from talking to other people that it's on the verge of collapse, actually. And so I can't say whether I've witnessed that or not because I haven't been there, but they obviously feel very sensitive about that, and that's why they didn't allow us in. So that's the only conclusion you can come to. If people aren't allowed in, but obviously not a security risk. 2 60-year-old doctors. Really, that's ridiculous. But they obviously don't want us to see and report what we see in terms of care for Palestinian people. So I think it's a sad day, and it's very frustrating. But there we are. And I think what was interesting actually, as I was coming back, we had quite a long car journey back. I had a lot of time to think. I thought actually most of the population of this country feel frustrated and powerless around Gaza and what's going on. And I felt that myself because I'd been barred from entering. So I sort of understood why. Loads of people write to me about this issue as an MP. And I understand our frustration as we watch what is technically now a genocide happening in Gaza, and we're not allowed to do anything about it. So I did really feel that sort of frustration and a sort of guilt that we're not doing enough, really. So it was really frustrating. And then we flew back to England yesterday, and here we are. But perversely for the Israelis, actually not being allowed in has probably given us more publicity than if we had visited. So hopefully it will slightly backfire in that way.
I mean, it's not just yourself, British MPs, doctors that haven't been allowed to witness what's happening in Gaza. Foreign journalists also not allowed to enter. I just want to pick up on something that you said there, which is that the UN inquiry have concluded that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. Ed Davies said it, Emily Thornberry said it, but just over a week ago, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, said that the UK government concluded it wasn't a genocide. And whose assessment do you agree with?
Well, look, I'm no expert in what constitutes genocide and in sort of legal issues around that type of thing. I think that I think with the actual invasion, the ground invasion of Gaza City, which I think has changed a lot, and I think that you have to say that if the United Nations, which is a neutral body, it's something to build world peace. If they're saying it's a genocide, I do believe there's a genocide going on, and I think that. Actually, I mean, we know what's going on. And in a way, whether we call it genocide or not doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It needs to stop, and we need to stop it as soon as possible. And we need, the hostages do need to be returned, and the war needs to stop. And it's as simple as that.
You mentioned as well that Israel is still technically an ally of the UK. How do you think this government will be remembered, not only for still maintaining that allyship during this period, but for also continuing it when the UN inquiry has concluded that genocide is being committed?
I mean, the government's come in for quite a lot of criticism over how they've managed it. To be fair with you, we've come a long way from where we were when we took over power. So the Conservatives were, actually we've come a lot further in condemning what's going on. And, I think that actually we're threatening now to recognise the state of Palestine. A lot of Palestinians, I think, well, what difference will that make? I think it's symbolic, but I do think it's also important. And it's sort of important as well because Israel really doesn't want it to happen. So that means to me it's a type of leverage. So I do believe that we've gone quite a lot more. We've prevented almost all arms sales apart from really the F-35 parts from going there. So we have come a long way. I think we should go a little bit further, and I think politically, in this domestically, it would be a good idea to prevent any type of arms sales that we possibly can from going to Israel. I'm also, as a medic, I've been campaigning with Médecins Sans Frontières (MSF) about this. There's clearly deliberate targeting of healthcare workers. That's nurses and doctors. And so, for example, I've heard from medics who've worked in Gaza that then they really don't go out of hospitals in their scrubs because they then get arrested. So that is. I think that's abhorrent. These people they're not actually trying, if there's an Israeli injured person, they would do what they can for them too. It's not about which side you're on. It's just about providing basic healthcare. And I think there's a wider issue here in warfare generally, because this actually happened in Syria as well. The healthcare workers were targeted, and it's seen as a way of getting some sort of strategic advantage. And we've got to stop that. That's really abhorrent to me, and I think to most people as well. And it's clearly being perpetrated by the IDF at the moment. So that's another thing that we must push back on as strongly as possible. And that's my personal sort of campaign as well with that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the F-35 parts there and that the government could do more. I wondered what you thought of the Scottish government suspended all public funding to arms companies like Raytheon and BAE that were currently supplying weapons to Israel. Is that something that the UK government should follow suit with?
Look, as I say, I'm a backbencher. I haven't got particular knowledge of this area. It just seems to me that we have to, in a way, I think we have to be on the right side of history here, and we have to do the right thing. Now, I don't know the actual details of if we are how much arms we're supplying, but I think we should stop it, and I think that's simple. And I don't think you can really argue with that. And but that is my strong message, which I've also reported to the Foreign Office, and many of us have Labour MPs have done that, as well as Kit Malthouse, who's a Conservative MP who's really impressive and very supportive of the Palestinian cause.
Obviously, Keir Starmer is meeting with President Trump today, arguably a man who holds the power to end what's happening in Gaza. What would you urge Keir Starmer to say to him?
Think, I think that I don't think it's going to happen, by the way. This is sort of wishful thinking, but they've got to stop supporting the Israeli military and what they're doing in Gaza. They have to tell them to stop. I understand the sensitivities around the hostages, and I think that is also, and I think we've got to a situation, interestingly, where the current Israeli government is not popular amongst its people at all. Its approval rating is very, very poor. Two-thirds of Israelis want to stop the war, but also the Palestinian people, they're not enamored with Hamas either. So we've got this ridiculous and awful, tragic situation, and actually the Americans just can stop that, and we should ask them that they're the only people with proper leverage here, and we should ask them that, we should ask them to stop on our behalf and on the Palestinians' behalf as well. So. I think word and a change in attitude from Washington will change what's happening in Gaza, and I think they're duty bound to do it, but I don't think they will do it. I must say so.
Dr. Simon Opher, thank you so much for joining us on Politics Joe today.
It's all right. That's great. It's a delight to speak to you. Thank you very much.